All right, well, good morning. Welcome back to the 126 Collective. I am super excited about today's lesson. I've been working on it for the last couple of weeks, and I swear it has come up in so many coaching conversations these last 2 weeks that I have to believe that it was divinely inspired that I selected this particular leader to focus on today. And so I know that regardless of where you are in your business, whether you have a team, whether you want to build a team, whether you're on a team, or whether you're running your business all by your lonesome, you are leading people, and it is an important part of your role as a leader. So I was inspired by this story not too long ago. I read through the Bible every year using different reading plans, and so as I got back into Exodus and the story of Moses, when I came across this story, I got to be honest, I also watched a series that's available on YouTube called The Promised Land. And if I don't know if any of you were fans of The Office. I never watched The Office, but it's filmed in the same style as The Office, which is kind of a strange. They're talking to the camera, but then they're kind of living it out, right? And so it's a comedy, but it tells the story of the Israelites as they wander around the desert for 40 years. So it's really cute. You can find it on YouTube, or if you have the Angel app, it's on there as well. But anyway, Jethro shows up in one of the episodes, and it was so comical to watch how it's filmed. So I highly recommend the series if you look for it. It's called The Promised Land. Anyway, so the story of Moses and Jethro really intrigued me. And so when I read it again, I was like, I got to do a teaching on this because this is such a valuable lesson for all of us, regardless of where we are in our business or our role as a leader. And so we're going to start today in the book of Exodus, chapter 18, verses 13 through 26. So I'll go ahead and share my screen so you guys can see here. And I'll read. The next day, Moses took his seat to serve as judge for the people, and they stood around him from morning till evening. When his father-in-law saw all that Moses was doing for the people, he said, "What is this you were doing for the people? Why do you alone sit as judge while all these people stand around you from morning till evening?" Moses answered him, "Because the people come to me to seek God's will. Whenever they have a dispute, it is brought to me, and I decide between the parties and inform them of God's decrees and instructions." Moses' father-in-law replied, "What you are doing is not good. You and these people who come to you will only wear yourselves out. The work is too heavy for you. You cannot handle it alone. Listen now to me, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you. You must be the people's representative before God and bring their disputes to him. Teach them his decrees and instructions and show them the way they are to live and how they are to behave. But select capable men from all the people, men who fear God, trustworthy men who hate dishonest gain, and appoint them as officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Have them serve as judges for the people at all times, but have them bring every difficult case to you. The simple cases they can decide themselves. That will make your load lighter because they will share it with you. If you do this, and God so commands, you will be able to stand the strain, and all these people will go home satisfied. Moses listened to his father-in-law and did everything he said. He chose capable men from all over Israel and made them leaders of the people, officials over thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. They served as judges for the people at all times. The difficult cases they brought to Moses, but the simple ones they decided themselves. So I love this story because it seems so like, duh. How could Moses handle? I mean, remember, these were a lot of people. These were more than 1 million people. But truthfully, Moses would have become and had become the bottleneck, the leadership bottleneck. The truth is, you can't build something great if you have to do everything yourself. So in this part of the story, right, Moses is leading these people. They've been brought out of Egypt. They're wandering through the desert. These people have no idea how to be in a society. So he's their judge, he's their counselor, he's their spiritual leader, he's the decision maker for everyone. And so, one of the things that stood out for me, and I read this when I do these lessons, I read them in multiple translations because I wanted to see, is there anything here um, that would indicate the importance of the fact that he sits as judge and they stand around all day. And I read it in multiple translations. It reads the same everywhere. I did a lot of digging and I couldn't find it, but there was like nothing in particular that made the sitting and the standing stand out as another lesson. But all I could just do was envision it. And so if you're sitting and everyone's standing around you, you're looking up at them, they're looking down at you. Just imagine the energy that's going on there. It must have felt like they were, like the walls were closing in as all of these people are standing around waiting on him to decide. And he's the only one sitting there as judge. So even though I couldn't find anything specific on it, I was really getting that sense that it must have been very stressful for Moses to have all these people standing around day after day with every dispute, every tiny dispute, every large dispute. You would think, can't people figure things out themselves? Well, remember, they were slaves. They didn't have to figure anything out. They were told what to do. Now they're looking for Moses to do the same thing for them. So here comes Jethro. And Jethro is Moses' father-in-law, and he can see what Moses can't see. So when he says to him, what you're doing isn't good, I mean, you're just going to wear yourselves out. This is the truth. That's not criticism, that's clarity. That's clarity. This is what coaching is all about, by the way. It's about helping people get clarity about what's working and what's not working. When you're on the treadmill or the merry-go-round or the Ferris wheel or the roller coaster or whatever analogy you use for your business, you're too busy in it. You're on the field playing the game. You can't always see what somebody on the outside can see. And so, is there anyone that's speaking into you? Who's helping you get clarity? Who's a mentor, someone that you can count on? Or can you at least just step back on a consistent basis to see where you might need a little more clarity as to what's going on? So I want to talk a little bit about where we are in the story. So there's a lot of things going on in the biblical story at this point. Israel's free, but they don't know how to live like they're free. They don't have a clue of how to live like free people. I'm just popping that handout in there again. So they did have one victory. They did have a victory over the Amalekites. That's in Exodus 17. If you go read Exodus 17 and read about that story, there's a whole leadership lesson just in that one story on its own. So if you figure that out and come back on our next call and let me know what you learned, I'll give you some extra points on that. But this is it. 400 years of slavery, no system of governance, no leadership structure. No civic framework. They have none of it. Moses is carrying the entire weight on his shoulders. So who could identify with that? Like, you're trying to build something and the weight of everything that you're building is on your own shoulders. That's where Moses was. So as Jethro comes along, he helps develop this blueprint. For those of us today, it seems like, I mean, how could he not have figured this out? How could Moses have thought he could do it all on his own? But we're going to talk about where that comes from, because we can look thousands of years later and we can make some pronouncements about what was going on in the world of Moses. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm gonna go run over here and add people access. I don't know why it's doing that. I've made this thing access. Stand by, everybody. So you can have it. Also, it will always be in the Mighty Network. So if you are in the Mighty Network, you can check that out. It'll always be there ahead of time. It usually gets there like on Saturday or Sunday. Okay, anyway, you should all have it now. But anyway, we're going to talk about where that heaviness came from. Why did Moses think he had to do it all on his own? So let's think about what Moses was doing. He's hearing every dispute, he's seeking God's will for the people, he's teaching God's decrees and instructions, and he's showing them how to live and behave. Right? This is leadership. Leaders know the way, they go the way, and they show the way. So he's doing all of that, but he's doing it all alone. So Moses is faithful, but he's not scalable. That's not scalable. This is where we move into this leadership. I'm calling it the leadership intervention, and that's where Jethro comes along. So Jethro empowered Moses by giving him another option. And then Moses empowered the others. Moses empowered these other judges. And it was only when that empowerment happened that the nation began to grow. So, my point number one is Moses listened to wisdom. Moses listened to wisdom. I'm going to share my screen again so we can look at that together. Um, so when his father-in-law said, "Listen to me now, and I will give you some advice, and may God be with you," Moses listened to his wise and experienced father-in-law, and he listened to God. And so my point here is that leadership has to start vertically before it expands horizontally. That means he went to someone who was more experienced than him, and ultimately, in Moses' case, to the Lord. But who is above you? Who's a mentor? Who's someone that is a further down the road than you are that could speak into you and empower you to step into your next level of leadership? And by the way, a leader who doesn't seek advice from wiser, more experienced leaders, who doesn't have mentors or coaches, or at least a peer group that can speak into them. And by the way, your mentor doesn't have to be in your industry, whatever it is. It could be someone that's been successful at some level growing a team. So go to that vertical information and advice before you try to go horizontally. Number two, Moses clarified his core competency. Moses had to figure out what was the one thing, what were the things, one or two things that only he could do. So once Moses defined what only he could do, he had to stop doing what others could do so that he could focus on what only he could do. Right? In your business, in your team, in your organization, whatever it might be, there are some things that you must do, and only you can do them. And by the way, that list should be pretty darn short. It should be pretty darn short. Moses knew what he had to do was represent the people before God. That was a non-negotiable. Moses had to teach them and show them. That's a huge part of leadership. Teach them and show them. But then when he found other people to do what he didn't need to do, like here, these smaller cases, these minuscule disputes about whether your sheep, broke through my fence, or whether you took an unfair share of the manna, whatever it might be. Like those were not things that were Moses's core competency. It's a hard word to say. So you've got to figure out what are the things that only you can do. And by the way, again, it's a short list because you need to be able to delegate everything else. Number three, Moses developed a plan. So he had to select capable men. I use this analogy a lot. Remember Where's Waldo? It's a little cartoon character that was in kids' puzzle books. And the reason that children could always find Waldo is because Waldo always looked the same. We knew what Waldo looked like. He had the little glasses and a little hat and a little red and white striped shirt. And so they didn't change Waldo's clothes and make it impossible to find him. You had to identify, what does Waldo look like? Now let's go find Waldo. So Moses had to select these capable men. Here's their job description, or it really was their values, their character description. They had to be God-fearing, they had to be trustworthy, and they had to hate dishonest gain. That was his job description. So again, for you, when you think about what are the things that only I can do, Okay, the job description is everything else. It's everything else. But what are the qualities? What are the characteristics of the people that you want to hire? Who's your Waldo? If you're going to really grow your team and become a great leader, you've got to figure out what the personality is of the person you're looking for, and then you got to go find them. And then he appointed them. Okay, so structure creates capacity. The only way Moses could grow his capacity was to create a structure around that. That was super important. Number four, he equipped and empowered others to lead. So this is the truth. You've got to be able to move from managing people to leading people. Managing people is about training them, and then about holding them accountable to doing what you've trained them to do. But leading is different. Leading is about equipping people and empowering them to go out and lead. It's not semantics. It is it's a small shift that leads to huge results, right? That's a quantum leap, if you will. So it's something small that leads to great results. So Moses had to equip them, right? He had to teach them, he had to show them, but then he had to empower them to go do it. And he did not go peek over their shoulders. He did not micromanage them. It says that he let them do their job, and then they only brought the difficult matters to Moses. So in this case, delegation was not abdication. He wasn't abdicating his role as leader. He was empowering them. It was intentional empowerment. Okay? And then number five, Moses did only what others could not do. And that's the shift from operator to leader. That's the shift from manager to leader. That's the shift from operator to owner. That's where empowerment begins. And so the fact of the matter is, for you in your business, if you truly want to grow, you've got to get to that place where you decide there are things that I must do on a daily and weekly basis that's going to move my business forward, that I can never delegate, I can never outsource to anyone else. Again, it's a small list. If there's 10 things that you think your business requires, two of them are the ones that matters. This is the Pareto principle at its finest, right? So you've got to figure out, what is my core competency? And then who is my Waldo? Who are the people I need to bring onto my team? Whether they're virtual assistants, whether they're people who actually work for you, whether they're administrative or operational, whether they are salespeople, whatever it is, each of the people that I need to bring on board so that I can divest myself and empower other people so that we can all win at a higher level. I've got to figure out, what is it? I think most importantly, who is it? What's their personality? What are their values? What are their characteristics? And then what are they going to do? How many people hire based on a resume, a skill set, or past experience, but they don't check and see if the person has the right values, the right qualities and characteristics, the right disc profile, for example? That's important. But once you develop that Waldo, then you got to build a plan, and then you got to go find those people. Then you've got to equip them and empower them and get out of their way and stay focused on the things that only you can do. That's a huge part of leadership. So what are the obstacles that get in the way for us? Well, let's look at what some of those leadership obstacles are. The law of empowerment in John Maxwell's 21 Irrefutable Laws of Leadership, the law of empowerment says that only secure leaders give power to others. So secure is the key word here. So you can't empower others if you are ultimately afraid of being replaced, if you're addicted to being needed, if you're defined by control, like you have to have control of everything, and if you're driven by ego. It can be these can be tough pills to swallow, but it's important for us to understand what's getting in the way of us empowering other people. Because insecurity grasps for control, but security multiplies effort, right? So if you're an insecure leader, you're not going to empower other people. Now, most of the people I've worked with over the last 16 plus years of doing this full time, most of them aren't truly afraid of being replaced. That I think happens more in maybe a corporate or an institutional setting where someone is asked to be in a position of leadership, but truly they are afraid that if they empower their people, that their people may actually outperform them and they might find themselves obsolete. And so this doesn't generally happen. Most of the people I work with are in business for themselves. So they're not afraid of being replaced. But many of them are addicted to being needed, and they want their clients and everyone to think that they are, they're the be all end all. Many of them are control freaks. And what they don't understand is that need for control just becomes from a place of not having good systems in place. So they have to control everything themselves. And some are indeed driven by ego. They like being in charge. They like thinking that their customers will only do business with them, that they're the only one that can do it. So we want to understand that if you're grasping for control, it could be a sign that you're insecure. So this is great because once you figure out what that is, you can make the move. And let's just take a little sidebar here. Remember, Moses wasn't a natural born leader. If you know anything about Moses' story and the incident with the burning bush, Moses says, I'm not worthy. Like I have a lisp or a speech impediment. We know that Moses was considered himself to someone who got tongue-tied. He didn't know who God was. He's like, what if these people don't listen? He wasn't even raised with these people. Remember, he's raised as Pharaoh's grandson. He even thought, like, I'm not a good speaker. You got to send somebody else. So Moses had to grow. He had to move from that high level insecurity to his ability to steward the gifts that God was giving him. And if you guys remember, we talked about this a few weeks back in the parable of the talents. We've got to be able to steward what we've been given. So why do business leaders resist empowerment? So I'm gonna lay these out for you, and I'm gonna ask you just to consider for yourself for a moment. Like, just be honest with yourself. Which one of these feels a little bit too close to what you might be feeling? Do you have maybe a deep-seated fear of losing what you have? You know? And for some of you, that could look like, look, I make good money, but if I hire somebody and empower somebody to help me, then I'm going to lose part of that money. I'm going to have to pay somebody else. Or what you may be fearful of losing is the way that you control your schedule or lack thereof. If you have someone that's on your team, all of a sudden you may have to keep office hours. You may have to be accountable. You may have to do what you say you're going to do. You may not be able to sleep late or skip work because someone else is counting on you. So fear of losing what you have could show up in a lot of different ways. What about resistance to change? Some people just don't want to change. I want more, but I don't want to change. What's the chance you're going to get more if you're not willing to change? What about a lack of self-worth? Maybe you don't even believe that you're capable of growth, of leadership, of empowering other people. What about this one, control issues disguised as high standards. I've heard that so many times over the years that, the way that I do things and the way that I deliver service to my clients is white glove service, red carpet service. Like it's niche, it's concierge level service. I've heard every description. And how can I trust other people to uphold my high standards? My reputation is on the line. That could really just be your need for control. Or what about this one? What about this belief? It's just easier if I do it myself. It's faster if I do it myself. If you want something done right, do it yourself. That shows up for a lot of people. But the truth is, if you don't empower others, you become the bottleneck, and you are never going to scale if you've become the bottleneck in your own business. So let's talk about the leadership shift, because the truth is, if you try to do everything yourself, you're going to wear yourself out. That's what Jethro told his son-in-law. So that could look like long hours with little margin. I mean, are you working 7 days a week? Are you like Moses? You're sitting around trying to accomplish everything. Or for most of you, you're probably running around trying to accomplish everything. You wish you could sit, But you have no margin, you have no space. There's no white space in your calendar for you to accomplish the things that you want to accomplish. For some of you, it's stalled growth. Like you've kind of hit the ceiling of your achievement. You're selling as much as you possibly can. You're doing as much as you possibly can, but you can't grow. You've plateaued. Maybe if you do have a team, there's some disengagement. When you try to do everything yourself, why would anybody want to stick around? Or if you've created a team of people that show up with their hands out, waiting for you to hand them something to do or a lead to follow, and you're busy trying to do it all yourself, you're going to have a team that disengages. For business leaders, it often looks like no succession plan and no exit strategy. If I'm going to do everything myself, look, guys, I'm in that same boat. That's me, right? I am the only person in my company. I mean, I have some assistants, but there's no other coaches in Angie Bell Consulting. So what's my succession plan? What's my exit strategy? I get it. I'm there with you. And then, of course, the most dangerous one is a soul that shrinks while you keep chasing expanding success. The Bible says, what does it profit a man to gain the whole world and lose his soul in the process? And if you don't think Moses was headed there, you got another thing coming. So this is the leadership shift. It's moving from doer to vision carrier. It's moving from the decision maker for everything to the person who shapes the culture. It's moving from the problem solver for everyone and everything to someone who develops leaders who go solve problems. That's what Moses did. He developed these other judges, he taught them and he showed them, and then he let them go hear the simpler cases so that he could focus on the big ones. And you make that shift from being needed by everyone to building the systems so that other people can go do that. It's a big shift. And that shift is leverage. So when you think about the empowerment, Moses empowered these other leaders. So he shared the workload with other people. The people of Israel were served quickly. Can you imagine? They stood around from morning till evening, waiting for Moses to hear their case. And so imagine what it was like to get those people through the lines much quicker and back to living their lives. The leaders were developed, and then the nation not only stabilized, but it grew. If Moses had continued to try to do everything else, obviously would have made himself sick for sure. But it wasn't just about Moses. It was about the future. It was about the future. And so your business, my business, it's no different. If you're trying to do everything yourself, you're going to hit a ceiling. And when you hit that ceiling, if you don't find a way to break through, then ultimately you're going to burn out. You're going to get yourself to the place. Look, the people I know and the people I work with, they serve their clients at such a high level. They would never sacrifice service for any reason. And so you know what they would sacrifice instead of service? They would sacrifice themselves. And so they would end up sick and miserable, but they would keep doing it until they become the martyr of their own business. So I want us to have time today to go through these questions. So I'm really going to ask you guys to engage with me. Does everybody have a copy of this? I want to unshare my screen so I can see everybody. Okay, I'm going to just check one quick in case there was any other thing that needed to be shared here. Okay, I think everybody has it. All right. So I really want you guys to jump in and play along with me today as we go through some of these discussion questions. And I've broken them down into 4 categories. And the first one is personal leadership awareness. Okay, for just a moment, I want to think about these 3 questions, and then I'm gonna pause and open the mics in case anybody wants to jump in here. And the question is, where are you currently the bottleneck in your business? Number 2, what are you holding on to that someone else could do 70%, 60%? I mean, any level as well as you. And are you more energized by being needed or by developing others. There's no shame in that, by the way. That's simply moving from level two leadership to level three or four leadership, which we could spend some time discussing. But just focusing on personal leadership awareness. Do any of those questions strike you as something you might want to explore? And if so, unmute yourself and let's have a conversation. Hey, free coaching here, guys.
Okay, I'll raise my hand.
Okay, go ahead.
I feel like I'm absolutely living this right now. As you know I'm the bottleneck in my business, and I'm working on establishing systems so I can bring somebody else on instead of doing what I did last time and bringing somebody else on and them doing all the things and me not knowing what they do. And I think what's really helped me is to realize that I am energized by developing others, not energized by being needed, though.
Mm-hmm.
At, at first, that seems, like, oh, they're trying to do their job and, they need my insight. And then after a while, you realize that you've developed somebody who isn't thinking on their own.
Yeah.
Uh, but I'm absolutely living this right now. And I realize I think me knowing I'm the bottleneck in my business is like 80% of the battle.
Yeah. Yeah, so let me dig into what you said a little bit. I'm not energized by being needed. So but I am energized by developing people. But can you see that there could be some space in there, and it's something that we could certainly explore in one of your calls, that there's that space as a leader where when you first hire somebody, guess what? They need you. Because part of what you have to do is stop and spend time with them and onboard them and at least teach them how to use your technology or whatever, right? There's a part of that, and then they kind of are there going, okay boss, what do you need me to do? What do you want me to do? Okay boss, I did that, what do you want me to do? There's that space before you truly empower them and now they go do it, right? John Maxwell says if you're gonna train somebody, do it this way: I do it and you watch me, then we do it together. Then you do it and I watch you. And then you go do it. And then ultimately you then teach somebody else to do it, right? But in that beginning, I got to do it and you got to watch me. And then we got to do it together before we can get to the place where you do it. And so if we're not energized by being needed, if you're saying like, that doesn't energize me, I want to empower people. What I would want to be thinking about if I'm you is there a part of me that has hesitated on making that next step because I don't I know I have to go through that needy part, and that's not what excites me. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So then we can explore what that looks like because obviously it's a part of it, right? The best systems in the world, you still have to do some measure of training before you can cut them loose. And a lot of people, they want to hire and then dump it and run. Like, okay, awesome, you're hired, go do the job. It's the training, it's the equipping that is becomes the hamstring, not the empowering. Like I can empower you, but I do have to equip you.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's for you, maybe it's thinking, okay, I understand there's going to have to be that period where I'm going to have to take some time to train the person and to equip them. And then I get to empower them.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And
Yeah.
I think where the real heartburn comes from is making sure I'm hiring the right person and I'm spending the time on the right person, I think is my next focus.
Yes. Yeah. And so we can look at Jethro and Moses and realize Moses, Jethro said you got to select capable men. And then he had his three criteria. They got to be trustworthy. They've got to hate dishonest gain. What was the third one? Lord knows I've read this enough times. Okay, and they got to fear God. Oh yeah, it's important. So us figuring out like what is that Waldo, and then we got to find that person because they'll be a lot quicker.
Mhm.
Mhm. All right, Paula, what you got? You want to crowdsource this or you got something different?
So I have something different because I am a coach like you. So I know all of these things because I was a realtor and and you coached me and this is how I built my business and believe me, I loved it when I finally had people in place that were doing all the back office stuff, all the social media. They were telling me what to do for social media, like we need to do a video, we need to do, I loved it. But now I'm starting a new business, so I'm doing everything.
Hmm.
And I feel like one of the time consuming things right now for me is the social media presence. So needing it to be able to get more and more people aware of me and what I'm doing and get in front of people, but it's so time consuming. So I'm thinking that's the first thing I would love to be able to release. But I'm not really in a position to hire someone part-time to do that yet. So I was thinking of maybe going to the local college and seeing if I could get an intern. Because this is what I did when I was in real estate. Went to the local college, got a couple interns, and then they stayed with me after
Oh,
their internship was up
yeah. Yeah,
as a
interesting.
part-time gig.
So I had an interesting conversation 2 weeks ago with a guy that actually Christine recommended to me, and we had a great meeting. What his business is he works with a lot of people in the real estate sphere, let's call it. And so he sits down and helps you identify like who your ideal client is. And then he helps you create that persona. He uses the Donald Miller story brand framework to help you create that story and that persona, and then use AI to build out your messaging so that it is actually in alignment with what you're trying to do. So in that case, his goal is to actually empower people. It's not necessarily a long-term commitment in terms of time, but it is a short-term burst of energy as you put this together with him. But then it sets it all up so he builds out the AI to help you do that. And so I really want to get him, to do like a Zoom and maybe open that up for people that want to come and learn a little bit more about what he does. I'm waiting on some more information from him right now. But I think that there are some tools that can help. Now, so certainly, look, let's go back to this. Moses needed people because he didn't have technology. But we have different tools now that are similar, right? That when you are empowered to create systems and things, because honestly, Paula, to me, it would be much more exciting for you to build the systems that are going to do some of that so that you can focus on serving your clients and maybe building more coaches to do what you do.
Yeah,
Right?
I am using AI for my social media. So I am, and it really does understand my voice. So that is going much faster now that I've been at it for a month. And so, initially it was like 5 hours for all the marketing things. Now we're down to about 3.5.
Hmm.
But I would like to get to the point where I can just hand that off to somebody else and have them pick it up and run with it.
Yeah, I think that what this guy Clay does is more than just use AI to make your social media.
Yeah,
It's actually much more robust than that because what it does is essentially creates another person who then does it. So
yeah,
that, because ultimately your gift to the world is not your dazzling social media post.
right.
It's helping people step into a higher version of themselves,
Yeah,
whether it's business, fitness, health, whatever, right? That's your value to the world is creating an environment where people can have a better experience of life. Your gift to the world is not hiring somebody to do your social media post. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense? Like
yeah,
you have a gift, and for everybody on this call, there's probably something. Your core competency, right, is something that you've been uniquely gifted. We can go back to the parable of the talents, right? That you've been given a gift, you've been called to do something. There are pieces, parts. But when we're talking about building a team, yes, for some of us, we need clerical things, we need marketing things. All of those things are necessary. And now I believe there are some tools out there that can help us do way more than that so that we can reproduce ourselves, right? Moses didn't hire somebody to clean his tent so he could hear more cases. Moses built more judges so they could judge. And so, yeah, I'm not saying that it's not necessarily for us to hire administrative support, but I want us to think even bigger. Like we're going to empower more leaders because then they build the business without us. And yes, that could be marketing, that could be social media, it could be those things. But I'm going to challenge you to just think even bigger. Think even bigger. And so, yes, in the beginning, we may have to create the systems that are going to support some of those things. But I think big picture here, all of us are being challenged to reproduce ourselves. And that's exciting and scary at the same, in the same breath, right? To reproduce ourselves. It's a challenge on me too. I mean, y'all, I'm not getting any younger here. All right, let's look at the second set, identity and security. And the questions I have are here are what fear surfaces when you think about giving someone else real authority, right? So this isn't hiring somebody to do a task for you. This is empowering someone to do what you do, like really giving them authority. Do you equate control with value? And would your team describe you as empowering or micromanaging? These questions right here, these three questions I deal with on a weekly basis with my clients who have teams. Every week it comes up. Identity is a huge thing. Tony Robbins says it is impossible for us to outperform our identity. That the strongest force in the human personality is our need to remain consistent with how we define ourselves. And so if you always have said I'm a control freak, then that's your identity. If you've always thought that, you're the one that the buck stops here and, you have to do everything yourself, if that's your identity, then it's going to be impossible for you to outperform that. So do any of those questions show up for anybody on our call today that wants to speak into that? Anybody have some control issues? Somebody on here does.
Well, of course, the question always arises is, is somebody going to do it as well as you do, or are they going to do it exactly the same way that you do? But what I found out is that you just have to let somebody do what you've trained them to do and allow them to make mistakes and to learn from those mistakes. If you just allow that to take place without, trying to correct them at every point in the process, then they'll learn from their own trial and error. Your job is to reduce the amount of trial and error by giving them a track to ride on. But nobody's going to get it right the first time. And you
Yeah.
have to allow those mistakes to occur because mistakes that people um, commit and learn from are more valuable than the corrections that you make for them.
Yeah. It's interesting because the people that I work with all are small business owner of some type, like a lot of realtors, insurance agents, mortgage lenders, people that are in that realm. Although I do have people that are in other business structures as well. But it can feel like, this business has my name on the sign literally or metaphorically, like my name is on the sign, and so I can't afford for people to go out and make mistakes while they've got my name while they're there representing me. And I certainly understand that, right? Because your reputation is everything when you're a personal brand or a small business owner. This isn't like you work for Google and you empower somebody on your team to go make a decision. They screw it up and then you get called before the boss, but the company is not going to collapse. And so if you've in your mind believed like my name's on the sign, my name's on the door, like it all the buck stops here, it can lead you to fear empowering other people to go out and make those mistakes. And so I'm not negative to that. Reputation is everything. One bad review can spoil a lot of things. But what I do know is that there's a book called The Millionaire Real Estate Agent. Even if you're not in real estate, this rule still applies. This is on page 60 of that book. And what Gary Keller says in that book is he says, listen to me now. If you don't get anything else from this book, get this. Whatever it is that you do, no matter how specialized you think it can be systematized and it can be taught to someone else. That people represent the standards that you set, that you can train people. And we all know that. If you've been to a Ritz-Carlton or any, high-end luxury kind of brand, you can get a similar experience from people who have been taught these are the standards of this brand. And so what I say is don't lower your standards so that your people don't feel so bad when they make a mistake. Set really high standards, continue to raise the bar and challenge your people. But you also do need to know that yes, they are going to make mistakes. They're not going to do it like you. If you hire right, by the way, they'll do it better than you. That's the ultimate goal, right? But when you let your clients know, I've got somebody there in training, they're shadowing me today. Is that good are you cool with that? Like I want them to see how we do things on the XYZ team. I don't think there's anybody out there that's going to be negative to that. So what are you doing to empower your people? Are you setting high standards and are you bringing them up to those standards? And then let your clients know that you're in a positive growth mode and that because of that, you've got new people and you want them to see how things are done. No one's going to object to that. No one's going to object to that. So I think
Angie,
that's a big
I
one.
do have a question too.
Yes.
So I would say that I am a control freak. And at the beginning of last year, I did hire somebody, and that was great. I believe that you're exactly right. It does empower you to do other things, and it also adds more excellence to your brand having a team in
Mhm.
place. But I guess my question is, I believe how would you say, what if I'm still the problem on the micromanaging? How do you go back to your team and speak with each person? Would it be face to face or would it just be a phone call for honest discussion about, yes, you've tasked me with doing this, but yet this is what you then go back and do right on
Mhm.
top of me, and it just clouds everything.
Yes, it's a wonderful thing. I teach a process called the empowering team meeting. And in it I have like a lot of tools. I'll be happy to share that with you, Kristen, if that's something that you're interested in. But part of it is being willing to have a conversation with your people, and that is one-on-one, eyeball to eyeball. So I suggest having that conversation standing, even though maybe you have to stand on a book or they stand on a book. But it's face to face, eyeball standing. And you have to be willing to say, one of the questions is, how am I doing as a leader? What do you need from me to be more successful?
Okay.
And if you feel like micromanaging is part of a part of your thing, you can own it and say, look, I have built this story in my head that if I don't micromanage everything that happens, that somehow the whole house of cards is going to come down and you won't be successful and I won't be successful and the clients won't have a great experience. Like I've created the story and I know it's not true. So where currently do you feel like I'm overstepping my boundaries and
Okay.
managing you versus leading? Because again, it might seem like semantics, but managing and leading are two totally different things. John Maxwell teaches the 5 levels of leadership, and level 1 is positional leadership. People follow you because they have to. You're the boss. You sign the check. Nobody wants to be there for long. Some people start there. Like at some point you have to have followers or who are you leading? But we want to quickly get to level 2, which is permission-based leadership. People follow you because they like you. And that's better because you're using the carrot instead of the stick. But the problem with staying at level 2 is you always got to be nice. You can't ever challenge anybody because if they don't like you, they're not going to follow you anymore. So many people get stuck there, especially depending on their personality. Like, I need people to like me. I don't want to be rejected. So I'm just going to be nice to my people and give them what they want or what they're asking for, even if it's not what they need. We got to get to level 3, which is production. In production-based leadership, we all lock arms and we get out into the field every day and we go make it happen. It's a fun place to be because you're making stuff happen. They're making stuff happen. We're high-fiving each other. We're getting pizza. We're like rocking and rolling. But you see the bottleneck there. Now we're all doing the work. How much energy can I put into leading if I'm out in the field doing it? So getting from level 3 to 4, 4 is people, excuse me. So you got to move from production to people. And in level 4, you become a coach. You become a leader. You pour into your people and they go do it. Right? That's where Moses had to get to. Moses went from 0 to 4 overnight with his father-in-law. He had to get from that place where he was doing everything himself, where he had to empower other people to go do things so he could focus on his core competency. So that's part of it, is being willing to acknowledge that somehow you've made up this story that you have to control everything. And you know it's not going to help them grow and it's not going to help you grow. It's not going to help the business grow. Be willing to ask them, what's the one thing I'm doing right now that feels the most invasive? Because I want to work on
Thank you.
stopping that. What's the system? What is the training? What is the equipping that you need to be able to go do it? And then I need to get out of your way. You know, start with one thing. Does that make sense? Okay, beautiful. All right, the last few minutes here, we got business growth. If you continue doing everything yourself for the next 3 years, what will your business look like? And what would become possible if you freed up 10 to 15 hours a week? And maybe who in your organization has leadership potential that you've not yet developed? Does anybody see themselves anywhere there? I mean, what does it look like 3 years down the road when you're still the one doing everything? Well, let me tell you something. I'm preaching to the choir here because in 3 years, I'm going to be 65. I mean, you know what I'm saying? If it's still just me. Now, look, I'm not saying I want to retire. I don't. One of my clients told me this morning, retirement is not a biblical principle. And I was like, ooh, truth. I mean, you know, how old were these guys when they died? I just finished the book of Joshua again this morning, and he was 110. He was still leading the people. He was still out fighting the battles. So maybe I don't get to retire, but wouldn't it be nice if all these relationships I've built, and all this stuff that's stored up in this noodle, and all this experience, all this muscle just goes to waste? It would be sad. So I'm with you. I don't want to be in 3 to 5 years and I don't ever want to be a reservoir of information. I don't feel like I am, right? John Maxwell says, be a river, not a reservoir. Let it flow through you. Don't hoard it all up to yourself. So, you know, why am I not training coaches? I certainly have the ability to do that now. I have 16 years of experience doing this. Okay. So what does your business look like? I think we all need to be thinking about it. Okay, and then the last little bit here is soul and sustainability. Where are you close to wearing yourself out? And what is the cost to your family, health, and faith if nothing changes? Like, what ultimately is the cost? And are you building something that depends entirely on you or something that can outlast you? I think that's important for each of us, myself included, to be thinking about. If there's an area where you're like close to wearing yourself out, that would be a warning sign. That's the shot fired across the bow that you got to do something. You got to take action. So does anybody have anything on either of those last two?
I was just going to say that I'm actually in a position where I'm going from the last several years, I've been leading a team, managing and leading a team, and I'm being moved into more of a producer role that will be solely myself and not having a team directly underneath me. And I think that they are in a place where they will be successful without me, which is wonderful. But I'm also sad, and it's a little bit, I'm almost like protective of them. I want to make sure that whomever is coming in, to take that spot will treat them, and help lead them the way that I have, hopefully they would feel the same. But the protectiveness is what is getting me right now.
Yeah.
And just being able to let go and say that, okay, the new leader will do a great job with them as well.
Yeah. Do you have any input into the equipping and empowering of the new leader?
So no, it's an interesting function. I know the person where it's everyone in our organization is kind of shifting roles. So I know who it is, and I think that she knows what we do, and it'll all work itself out. But we definitely have a different style of leadership,
Mhm.
and I think it'll take the team some adjusting to get used to that. And it is going to be hard for me to step away and say, okay, I really can't focus on that now. I need to focus on my new responsibilities, and just trust that they'll be able to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a good thing for you to be thinking about, Kyla, too. Like, is my calling leadership, right? Because maybe it is.
Mhm.
And if you think, well, maybe it is, but right now this is the role that I really feel like I need to be in, you got
Uh-huh.
to take those. I would encourage you to sit down and just sort of write out what are the things I've learned, and then how can I transfer that to my role leading my clients, right?
Yeah.
If that's what you're going to be doing. Because I
Hmm.
think that's important. It's super important.
Absolutely.
Leadership is a high calling, right? There was only one Moses. Now he was able to leverage what he did and create more leaders, which was important. He was still the ultimate leader, but he was the only one.
Yeah.
Right. Now, and God equipped him to do exactly what he needed to do, and he allowed him to bring Aaron along, and ultimately Joshua took his place. All those things did happen, but it's a high calling, and not everybody is called into leadership. Although I believe that all of us can be better leaders. So wherever you find yourself, I give you on the last page there 7 steps to empowerment, and understand that empowerment, it's not dumping work, it's developing people. It's developing people. And that's what I would encourage you to sit down and go through those 7 steps. See if there's anywhere where you can begin to take one small step towards leadership. Because if you believe in others, then they believe in themselves. We all know that. You got to speak truth and life into other people. And when you multiply leaders, you multiply legacy. And that's what we're talking about. So I hope this has been helpful. I'm excited to continue the conversation for next time. We'll see who comes up next. But thanks for joining me today. Don't forget, do your homework. It's good stuff. Have a great week, everybody.
Thank you, Angie.
Thank you.